Hi there, welcome to Bible for the Busy Woman with me, Melissa Younger. Today we're going to be looking at Matthew 5:33-37, so you can grab your Bible and follow along. Basically, we're going to read through the passage, and then we're going to talk about some of the Old Testament verses that give us some context, and then we're going to make an application. So let's read that passage together, Matthew 5:33-37. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of old, "You shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from the evil." So he is following this same pattern that he has set up throughout his Sermon on the Mount, where he's going to introduce the Old Testament law, and then he's going to reinterpret it for his audience, and then kind of give a new sort of standard. And so this one, in verse 33, is kind of like the commandment to not take the Lord's name in vain. So in verse 34-36, if you look at that explanation, then you can see he's saying, do not take an oath at all. Okay, not just don't swear falsely, but don't take an oath at all. In the Old Testament, people would take an oath by God's name to show that something was binding. But now, in Jesus' day, people were saying that they were going to swear by Jerusalem or by heaven, and thinking that that wasn't quite as binding as swearing by God's name. And so there's this kind of dishonest intent there, that you're swearing this oath to someone to show that you're good for your word, that they can trust you, but then you could maybe weasel out of it later if you have to. And so that's not the attitude with which they ought to be relating to one another. And that's not the attitude with which we ought to be relating to others. Not saying something with the intent that we're not going to do it, or thinking, well, I might need to get out of this commitment later, right? So it's now Jesus is introducing this new standard in verse 37, let your yes be yes and no be no. Okay, and so you can look at some of the Old Testament passages on this. Numbers 32, that whole chapter on vows, which says that any vow is binding. And Deuteronomy 23:21, it says, "Do not be slow in paying vows." Those kinds of passages, the heart behind them is basically what Jesus is saying here. Right? If you say you're going to do something, do it. And you shouldn't need any kind of vow or assurance. This is kind of, especially for Americans, we don't take vows, we don't swear oaths to people, but we can understand the heart behind this. And that heart is to honor God and to honor others by following through with what we're supposed to do, and by being honest. So if you say you're going to do something, do it. And don't think you can get out of it. Don't think that, don't say it just to appease someone in the moment. We often can do that. So this kind of leads me to the application, which is, do you say what you mean, and do you mean what you say? Do you take on more than you can actually do, and then end up having to back out of commitments or things that you've promised to others? And are you afraid to tell someone no? That's very common for women and Christians especially. Sometimes we don't want to tell someone no. We want to, because you say yes and someone's happy, right? So yeah, just be careful about what you commit to. Maybe that's just the best way to go. But thank you for listening, and I hope this is encouraging, helpful to you. You can feel free to subscribe, leave a comment below, but let's stay in the Word and keep seeking the Lord together.